Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, May 27th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. A grim milestone in the coronavirus pandemic. 100,000 people have been killed by the virus here in the U.S. In San Diego County, 6 more people died and 101 new cases have been reported. The 14-day average percentage of positive cases is just over 3%, which meets one of the key metrics monitored by the county. Today, the nation's top infectious disease expert issued words of warning, but also a possible glimmer of hope. Nadia Romero has the latest.
We are going to see upticks of cases even under the best of circumstances.
Dr. Fauci warning there will be a surge of coronavirus cases in the United States now that all 50 states are in their own phase of reopening. Despite this, Fauci is striking an optimistic tone, saying there's a good chance the U.S. will have a vaccine by end of the year and believes we can stop a second wave.
To have the workforce, the system, and the will to do the kinds of things that are the clear and effective identification, isolation, and contact tracing, we can prevent this second wave that we're talking about if we do it correctly.
Now, in an effort to resurrect tourism in Florida, famous worldwide attractions like Disney World and SeaWorld are planning to reopen over the next 2 months. Face masks are mandatory, and guests will have their temperature screened. A day after reopening the New York Stock Exchange and meeting with President Trump at the White House Wednesday afternoon, Governor Cuomo says the rest of the state reopening will be based on science, facts, and numbers.
You would phase it by the most important businesses, the most essential businesses that pose the lowest risk first.
In states like California, they say they're nowhere near a day like that.
This pandemic is not behind us. We're not into a second wave. We still haven't gotten through the first wave.
In Washington, Nadia Romero, KPBS News.
And theme parks across California might begin to reopen soon. The parks are in the 3rd stage of the state's 4-stage reopening plan. Today, representatives of the major theme parks in San Diego County presented their reopening plans to the county. KPBS reporter John Carroll has more.
San Diego County's 3 major attractions, SeaWorld, the USS Midway Museum, and Legoland California, have all been empty of visitors for weeks now. This footage of Legoland is from happier times. The 3 organizations presented their reopening plans to county officials today under their umbrella organization, the San Diego Attraction Coalition. The San Diego Zoo is not part of the group. The Attraction Coalition would not make anyone available to go on camera, and neither would the county. But both released statements. From the Attraction Coalition, Legoland California Resort, the USS Midway Museum, and SeaWorld San Diego reviewed its collective reopening safety plan with County of San Diego officials today. While the attractions will all be ready to reopen on July 1st if authorized, the plan now moves on to state officials for additional review and guidance. As the San Diego Attraction Coalition, we were greatly appreciative to county staff for the opportunity to present our reopening plan to them today. And here's the county's statement. We had a very productive meeting today with SeaWorld, the Midway, and Legoland. They have been working hard on reopening. The state will make the decision as to when theme parks can open. We will be ready to assist them to open safely when the governor clears them to open. There is no shortage of questions in regard to how theme parks can operate safely during the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you keep people physically distant from each other in environments that were built for thousands of people gathering to have fun? How do you safely operate roller coasters with screaming riders, even if they are wearing face coverings? How would the Midway handle visitors in some of its more cramped spaces? All questions that will have to wait for another day. The governor said a couple of weeks ago that as long as a county's health system could handle a surge in cases, the move into Stage 3 could happen soon, as in the next couple of weeks. But as he's said many times, his decision of precisely when will be guided by data and science. It can't happen soon enough for the parks, which have taken an enormous financial hit since shuttering in mid-March. The cities of San Diego and Carlsbad and the Port District have shared in the pain as well, with their share of revenues from the parks having fallen off a cliff since the properties closed. But now that other Stage 3 businesses like barbershops and hair salons have been given the green light to reopen, it's only a matter of time before the screams of delight from children and adults alike will again fill the air, and some of the cash they leave behind will fill the coffers of local government once again. John Carroll, KPBS News.
San Diego County has partnered with Rady Children's Hospital to expand COVID-19 testing. KPBS reporter Shalina Chatlani says the collaboration will ramp up testing for children and their parents.
So we test the child, we test the family, and we are testing healthcare providers. This is a uniquely innovative partnership.
At the Rady Children's Hospital in Linda Vista, Wilma Wooten outlines the purpose behind the county's new partnership.
The prevalence of asymptomatic COVID-19 infection and the duration of pre-symptomatic infections in children are not well understood, as asymptomatic individuals are not routinely tested. And that's one thing that we will see that is different with this initiative and partnership.
Around 6% of county positive cases are below the age of 19, but often a lot of other cases are asymptomatic and go unrecorded. So the program will help the county test and collect data on more children and adults, especially those who may not be showing symptoms.
We will initially begin testing all of our Rady Children's satellite clinics as well as specialty clinics and affiliated primary care offices during their existing appointments. The intent is to test every patient we see, not just the high-risk patients.
Nick Holmes, Chief Operating Officer for Rady, says the hospital system provides services at more than 20 sites across the county. Testing will be offered as an option to children and parents with every appointment. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
Today was the first day houses of worship, hair salons, and barbershops were allowed to reopen in San Diego County. Gyms and fitness centers could be next. In a video conference today with fitness industry leaders, Governor Gavin Newsom said state guidelines could be released within a week or so.
We don't want to be naive and just put out something that's bland and that doesn't meet your unique criteria and your unique considerations, and also look at this from a regional perspective as we do everything.
Fitness businesses shared their financial struggles with the governor, and some say they had to lay off dozens of employees, while others pivoted to online classes. Since the beginning of the month, San Diego County has required everyone to wear facial coverings when they leave their home to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. But KPBS reporter Claire Tregeser says law enforcement agencies across the county are not citing those who are not covered up.
Starting May 1st, a new public health order set up the rule: if you leave your place, cover your face. Law enforcement agencies countywide are tasked with enforcing the rule, but so far, only the San Diego Sheriff's Department has written a citation for violating the rule. And they've written a grand total of 1.
For the most part, we have been able to get compliance by education, to educate people out there, because a lot of people just don't know. Not everyone watches the news, so we have even gone as far as carrying copies of the order and handing them out to people and businesses.
Studies have shown that face coverings can be a highly effective tool in preventing the spread of contagious diseases like COVID-19. But A.L. Oren, an epidemiologist at San Diego State, says 80% of the population needs to comply.
When we look at how many droplets of saliva are flung into the air by somebody talking with and without a face masks, we see that when someone even uses a simple cloth face mask that you can make at home, nearly all droplets are blocked.
Lopez with the Sheriff's Department says in the future, the department could move into a phase beyond education where deputies begin writing citations for violating the facial covering rule. Since the beginning of April, police agencies countywide have issued a total of 450 citations. Most were given to people illegally congregating in closed public spaces like parks and beaches. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
MTS has also given 2 citations to riders who were not wearing facial coverings on buses or trolleys. There has been a startling rise in discrimination and harassment against members of the Asian and Pacific Islander community. KPBS reporter Max Nadler tells us that members of that community and local leaders are backing a city council resolution to monitor and fight back against hate.
All y'all have coronavirus, every single one of you.
On April 10th, members of SDSU's Andres Bonifacio Samahan, the Filipinx and Filipinx American Cultural Organization, met virtually to elect their leadership for the next school year. But their meeting was soon interrupted by a Zoom bombing, where random members of the public entered the meeting and began hurling racial epithets.
Oh, look at Josh.
It was just so much hate being thrown at us. It was just an unbelievable experience.
According to a report from the Stop AAPI Hate Reporting Center, there have been 27 cases of anti-API acts in San Diego County reported between March 19th and April 29th of this year. This included incidents of verbal harassment and physical assault. Areas with Asian-run businesses like Kearny Mesa already saw a slump in sales before the state's stay-at-home order went into effect. Many restaurants there remain closed, despite the ability to now reopen. Escondido resident Erin Chu was at a Costco parking lot in San Marcos in early April when she says a man hurled racist comments in her direction, blaming her for the stay-at-home measures.
No matter how much you expect it in a way, you still feel quite shocked and stunned.
On Wednesday, City Council members Georgette Gomez and Monica Montgomery proposed a resolution to cut down on anti-Asian and Pacific Islander discrimination in the county. The resolution, which comes to a vote next week, would better track racist incidents and commit the city to an education campaign to push back against intolerance.
Just small steps like just not avoiding Asian businesses just to keep supporting each other can slowly take small steps into attacking this incredibly big issue of hate against the community.
Max Nadler, KPBS News.
President Donald Trump is threatening to regulate or even shut down social media platforms like Twitter. Today, he tweeted that Republicans feel social media platforms silence conservative voices. It comes after Twitter applied a fact check to 2 of his tweets. The president claims Twitter is interfering in the presidential election and stifling free speech. The White House believes the Federal Trade Commission and FCC should have the power to regulate social media. By the end of June, the city of San Diego estimates it will lose $11.2 million in deferred rent payments. Yes, San Diego is a landlord, and some renters of city-owned properties cannot pay because of COVID-19. iNewsSource investigative reporter Mary Plummer explains.
The list of those behind on rent includes a bait shop, several nonprofits, even a company that trains Navy SEALs in skydiving. The properties include parking lots, land outside city limits, and some of San Diego's most prime real estate. In all, 46 lease contracts were behind for April or May or both. For some, COVID-19 has crushed business as usual. Here's Bill Evans. His properties include the Bahia and the Lodge at Torrey Pines, both leased from the city. Evans says revenue has come to a screeching halt and that the city should waive some rent payments.
It's rather ironic because they have unilaterally decided to close the activities that allow us to make money. So using their police powers, they have closed down Mission Bay. They've closed down like a dock at the catamaran we rent from the city. We're not allowed to even go out on the dock, but the city says we still have to pay the rent.
San Diego's new coronavirus rules don't waive the rent forever, and the city hopes to eventually recover the payments. But the massive economic downturn caused by COVID-19 leaves a lot unknown. Here's City Council budget analyst Angela Colton.
It doesn't track and trend exactly like previous recessions, so it's harder to gauge, and it's harder to predict what's going to happen.
San Diego's revenue deficit is more than $350 million. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Mary Plummer.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. NASA's history-making flight will have to wait. Just 16 minutes before the scheduled liftoff, the SpaceX rocket ship's launch was scrubbed because of lightning.
5.100 launch scrub. And Dragon SpaceX, unfortunately, we are not going to launch today. You are go for 5.100 launch scrub.
And with the president and vice president looking on, the launch was rescheduled for Saturday. The mission is the start of a new era in commercial spaceflight and the first NASA launch from U.S. soil in nearly a decade. A California lawsuit against Big Oil will stay in the state court system. Imperial Beach and 4 other California municipalities sued major oil companies, accusing them of knowing about the climate change impacts of fossil fuels and covering it up. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rejected an oil company request to move the case into federal court, which could be uncomfortable for oil companies.
That's something that oil companies, I think, would really like to avoid. I think they don't want the plaintiffs in the business of figuring out what they knew about climate change, when they knew it, what they did in response, what they did to fund a campaign to try to persuade the American people that climate change wasn't real.
Imperial Beach is seeking hundreds of millions of dollars in damages for existing and future harm. A win by the plaintiffs could set a precedent that other communities and states could use to justify similar lawsuits. And it looks like we're in for another hot day across the county, but cooler temperatures are in sight. Mark Mancuso has your forecast.
Well, the heat continues for yet another day, but we do see some light at the end of the tunnel. A trough is approaching that will start to bring some cooling coastal areas on Friday and spreading into the deserts by the weekend. So hang in there. Still hot, though, and excessive heat warnings out here in the desert regions. So it's been pretty hot again today. The sizzling heat in the interior sections. It has been warm at the coast, and for tonight we'll probably see some low clouds starting to form again right along the immediate coast here. Temperature drops down to 60 in Oceanside, 66 in San Diego, El Cajon 62, Ramona 55, Mount Laguna 58. Well, for tomorrow it's more of the same, right? It's hot, it's dry, but keeping an eye on this upper low, and that is going to bring us the cooling trend. Taking a look at our temperatures for tomorrow, 74 in Oceanside, 73 in San Diego, so it's warm, and Escondido's at 83. Clouds giving way to sunshine. Sizzling 110 in Borrego Springs, and Campo's up to 90. Well, as we check on Friday, hey, a little relief near the coast. Not as warm, but still widespread heat in the desert regions. There it is, the upper low. That'll spin its way closer Friday, then head up to central northern California on Saturday. But our flow turning onshore, and that means cooling. Take a look at temperatures next couple of days. Still quite warm into Thursday, and then temperatures back off just a little bit at the coast. Interior sections, as we head inland, will drop into the 70s Friday into Saturday. Looks pretty nice here. In the mountains, temperatures will drop to the upper 60s by Saturday. And in the deserts, well, it's still sizzling here, but by the end of the week and over the weekend, not as hot. For KBS News, I am meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Our county's best and brightest high school graduates will not get the standing ovation that they deserve. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong spoke to valedictorians about what it's like to earn this honor during a pandemic.
Greetings high school seniors, family members, underclassmen, and the hardworking staff. The speech that I'm giving to you all today wasn't what I had planned, but I still...
Jorge Nunez is the valedictorian at San Diego Unified's Hoover High School. This is the speech he's planning to give over a virtual graduation.
We have cultivated a culture of unity and strength, but that will not only help us overcome this pandemic, but one that would also help us to achieve our future goals.
In June, Nunez will graduate with a 4.59 GPA, but he wasn't always an all-star student.
I think in middle school and elementary school, I kind of had like a little slump, like I didn't really see the purpose of studying, because, I thought it was boring, and I didn't have a purpose at that time.
When he was a freshman, he went to his brother's graduation where he saw that year's valedictorian give his speech. That's when he decided to turn his life around.
I went to his graduation and I saw like valedictorian and they're like #1, they were giving a speech. And I was wondering, and and they're being very recognized. And I want to do that, for my parents.
His hard work earned him a spot at UC Berkeley, where he'll study electrical engineering and computer science as a first-generation college student. Nunez says he understands a valedictorian speech is not that important in the context of a pandemic, but he's still disappointed.
So I say beginning of 10th grade, when for our school, that's when it starts counting towards valedictorian. It's, I had it as a goal, but I didn't make it to seem like, it's the only important thing.
Carlos Sanchez was honored when he found out he was valedictorian of Sweetwater High in Chula Vista, but he says getting the news during an online learning session was awkward.
When you go on to a meeting with your teachers in the class, like the teacher would congratulate you, and then everyone else is on mute, and then you're just like, thank you to the teacher.
Sanchez will be studying biochemistry at Harvey Mudd College in the fall. In North County at Fallbrook High School, valedictorian Emiliano Corona is graduating with a 4.4 GPA.
Friends, families, and class of 2020, my name is Emiliano Corona, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, that really is my last name, and no, the virus was not named after me. However, I do understand if there was some confusion regarding the headline, Corona takes top spot.
Corona is headed to Stanford to study political science and economics. The grandson of immigrants from Mexico, he said the support for minority students on the Stanford campus is one of the main reasons for his choice.
It's just that idea of seeing someone that represents you in a place that you could never see yourself, like you never thought you could see yourself. That's really empowering to my family and how I view the world.
Arushi Dogra is the valedictorian at Del Norte High School in the Poway Unified School District. She and her friends were sad so many end-of-the-year events were canceled, but Dogra says the journey was well worth it.
In high school, I learned to take a lot of initiative by myself, whether it be clubs that I started or which classes to take. Those decisions were pretty much completely mine. And it helped me both with decision making, because I'm usually pretty indecisive about things, and also just planning my own future in a way.
She's graduating with a 4.59 GPA and attending Yale, where she hopes to study microbiology. Looking ahead, she's anxious about being surrounded by equally accomplished students. But there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, that's definitely intimidating, but I think it's also exciting in a way, because I'm excited to meet people that have the same interests as me, have had some of the similar experiences as me, and yeah.
Joe Hong, KPBS News.
As the number of days away from preschool, daycare, and friends adds up, parents may be left wondering how stay-at-home orders are impacting their young children's development. Whitney Wild spoke to one expert to find out.
After weeks away from preschool, Krista Justice doesn't worry 4-year-old Riley is falling behind in school. Instead, she fears Riley is missing out on life lessons.
She's really smart. My biggest concern is mainly her social awkwardness. I guess she doesn't know how to react with other children.
There's a big difference, obviously, between interacting with another child, with one of your peers or more peers in your classroom or in your program, than there is if you see them over Zoom.
Neil Horan, a child psychologist and expert in child development, says it's easy for kids to relearn colors and numbers.
Don't feel like you have to somehow have your child exactly where they would have been had they been in their preschool.
But he says early childhood is a critical time for building social and emotional skills. That's harder to do when kids are alone. Horan says it's crucial that parents find time to play with kids, even for just a few minutes every hour.
If they are sitting in front of a screen, they are not really going to learn much about social emotional skills.
Horan adds parents should focus on one goal in this uncertain time.
And ultimately, right now, the most important thing you can do is support your child in terms of their emotions.
Krista says fortunately, Riley plays with her younger sister and cousins regularly.
We try to make life as fun as possible. We do school every day.
For now, she tries to maintain some sense of normalcy.
1, 2, 3.
Until regular life returns. In Washington, I'm Whitney Wild.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, as the U.S. approaches 100,000 deaths from COVID-19, we talk to Dr. Anthony Fauci and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And now for an update on our top story. A terrible milestone reached today. 100,000 people in the U.S. have died from the coronavirus. Here in San Diego County, 6 more people died and 101 new cases were reported. Some good news. The 14-day average percentage of positives is just over 3%, which meets one of the key metrics monitored by the county for reopening. And also today, San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer announced $1 million in funding to support local artists, bolster public art in neighborhood parks, and expand the civic art collection. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Daycares are starting to reopen, but directions from the county are not clear, and parents have to decide whether to send their kids. That's on Morning Edition. And then on Midday Edition, local research shows text alerts and mobile apps may be more effective at reducing COVID-19 deaths than stay-at-home orders. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.